This is a video that I don't know how to make. I don't know what I'm going to say today, but I have a lot on my mind, and I just need to sit down and talk to you all about it. This is going to be a video about the consequences of telling the truth in the face of evil and under the threat of consequences. I'm going to talk about what happens to you when you confront evil people and liars with the truth, and you become more powerful than what they are willing to accept. The reason I'm making this video is today is September 12th, 2025. Everybody in the world watched on September 10th as Charlie Kirk was assassinated on stage. He was assassinated because he has been telling the truth, and evil forces don't want that truth to be out. They can't accept that truth, and they couldn't defeat him on the plane of ideas, so they had to resort to violence. They had to find a way to shut him down. There's a lot of people talking about how they're going to come out and start speaking the truth, and they're going to confront all these bad ideas and, whatever it is that they say they're going to do, and they say that they're going to do it regardless of the consequences, that we're currently in war. I have some experience with speaking the truth and facing the consequences and continuing to speak the truth under threat and kind of what happens under those circumstances. And this situation has really struck me down to the core. At the end of the day, that's exactly what this is. This is about having the strength and the resolve to show the truth to the world when you're being threatened for doing so. My life hasn't been threatened, but my career certainly was. And I want to talk to you exactly about how that happened, so that other people that are considering coming forward and speaking the truth in the face of evil, in the face of consequences, I want you to know exactly what to expect. In my case, this goes back to 2020 when I started the YouTube channel. The city officials in Columbus, Ohio, the people that run the city, Mayor Andrew Ginther, the city council, the safety director, and the people in the safety director's office, when the George Floyd riots came to Columbus, they decided to take a stance against the police department. That was a popular thing to do at the time. Everybody said that, police reform was the big topic of the day. And they decided to use an incident that happened in Minneapolis, Minnesota, in order to expand their power in Columbus, Ohio, by taking over the police department and using it for their own political purposes. That is exactly what was happening. The mayor was out there. He opened up a tip line where you could report police officers' activity to an outside agency outside of the police department. He was implying that the police department couldn't be trusted. His own police department, the police department that existed while he was on city council and the city council president and chair of the safety committee and all that, the same police department that he worked very closely with for years. Now that he became mayor and something happened in Indianapolis, this police department was now bad, and it was full of racists who were just beating up black people for no reason. That was the gist of what he was saying publicly, and it was in drastic need of reform. That was his those were his words, that reform was necessary, and anybody that resisted reform was standing against the people of Columbus. He was making this us versus them argument, and that was his claim to power. That's what he used to force upon the city a civilian review board and an inspector general. These are two separate entities that have been proven over and over again to have a serious bias against the police department. Even going so far as to lying about the race of suspects to make it look like police officers were racist, and charging them with bias-based profiling. So I could see that this stuff was coming down the pipe when the mayor started doing this stuff. And the other thing that the mayor did was he shut down everybody's ability to speak. Shut down the social media of the police department. Everything that was going to be posted on social media by the police department had to be cleared by his office for, it had to be cleared by his political committee before it could be posted. So the police department was not allowed to defend themselves. The FOP at the time was taking advice from a crisis management company. And they were being told, there's so much anti-police sentiment right now. If you come out and you confront it head on, they're going to make an enemy out of you. You need to stay quiet. The local media was not doing us any favors. There was nobody that was willing to tell the truth about what was really going on in the streets during those times. So I decided to be the guy. I decided that I was going to start making records requests for videos, and I was going to start posting the videos. You know, you say that we can't handle people with mental illness, that we don't know what to do with these people, that we aren't properly trained to deal with these people. I'm going to start showing videos of officers responding to calls about mental illness and showing how amazing they are. Showing that these officers are competent and properly trained and experts at dealing with these situations. If you say that officers are racist and they're just stopping black people for no reason, I'm going to start showing the videos of these people that say they were stopped for no reason, and I'm going to show exactly the reason why they were stopped. I'm going to show every day just common runs by police officers, common interactions with police officers and citizens that show exactly what we're like out there on the street. You know, body cameras were forced upon police officers and police departments because they were supposed to be catching all the bad apples. When you look at the amount of body camera footage that is out there, and even the stuff that's not out there, when you look at like the internal affairs investigations, the number of positive interactions that are captured on these cameras exceeds the number of bad interactions by an incredible margin. It's not even up for debate. You know, we're talking about less than 0.1% of the time are police officers not doing the right thing, and then the majority of the time those officers are held accountable. There's still some stuff that's going to kind of sneak through the cracks, but that's our society. That's something that, you know, is always going to happen. We just have to strive to constantly do better. But this was the message that I was putting out, that police officers are good people, that they're the good guys, that they're not these monsters that politicians like the mayor of Columbus, Andrew Ginther, wanted everybody to believe. And that message was resonating with people. It was a very popular message. My YouTube channel just started to climb and climb and climb. And the reason it climbed is because of all of the positive interactions that I was posting on the channel. For some reason, this angered the leadership of the city of Columbus. Then fast forward, I'd been doing this for 3 years. I think it was 2023 when I posted this. It was 2023. I posted a video where I actually caught the Office of Inspector General lying about a police officer. They said that he's harassed a young black teenager for nothing more than wearing a hoodie, when in fact the teenager was white and he was never actually stopped. I put out a video about that. I called out the city for allowing this kind of stuff to happen. The Office of Inspector General released a statement saying, we were made aware of an error on a report, but we stand by the investigative findings, meaning the black was actually just a typo. That's their excuse for what they did. At that point in time, they not only were they mad at me already, but they decided we're going to come after him. And they even announced it publicly.
Thank you for that. And so you had mentioned that there's been kind of statements on social media and others about individual investigators maybe you don't have to elaborate too much on that, but could you maybe explain in the sense of, I don't know, in terms of whether the city, how you handle that as your office?
We are monitoring it, and then if there becomes something that we're able to do, we will, make sure that we can do something. We have actually also talked with the attorney's office to see if there's some other avenues in which we can pursue. But
when they finally did come after me, I mean, they had an investigation open on me for 2 years. They held this investigation over my head for 2 years, leaving it open, I believe intentionally, because they knew that if I applied for a lateral transfer to another department and I had an open investigation, I wouldn't be able to leave. I wouldn't be able to resign in good standing. And if you can't resign in good standing, then you can't get hired by another police department, at least not on a lateral transfer. There are police departments that will hire a police officer that resigned under bad standing or was terminated, but those are very small departments that pay about half to 3/4 of what I was getting paid. So they were holding me there under this investigation while they could try to find something that they thought they could actually get me on. Eventually, I did make a mistake and I violated policy. What they did was they broke all of their own rules in investigating me for that policy violation, ignored all past practices and all comparable discipline cases, and fired me for it. They actually dismissed the original investigation on the day that they decided to fire me for it. They could not beat the truth that I was telling. I was telling the truth. They couldn't handle it. So they decided to fire me. Not only did they decide to fire me, but they actually spent 3 months trying to convince a prosecutor to charge me with a felony. 3 months of arguing with the prosecutors, and finally the prosecutors said, no, this is not something that we can charge a police officer with. I'll produce all of that information at a later date. But I have the proof that all this stuff happened. They were trying to ruin me. They were trying to get me charged with a crime so that I could never become a police officer anywhere ever again. All because I had the audacity to stand up and tell the truth. I'm now in the legal process of getting my job back. I've already had my arbitration hearing, which that information until the arbitrator rules is still sealed. That's how I understand it. But I feel pretty confident in what I know is going to come out in that ruling. And when that comes out, I plan on continuing to speak the truth. And I'm going to tell everybody exactly what happened during that hearing. I'm going to tell everybody exactly what the testimony was in that hearing. And I will 100% expose the city of Columbus and the Division of Police for lying about what I did and the circumstances and, all of that stuff. Just a lot of corruption and incompetence is going to be exposed when that ruling comes out. At that time, I will be once again an employee of the Division of Police. And that's where it comes down to, the real pressure. Because I know for a fact that the moment I go back to work, I will already have a target on my back. And when I go back to work and I have a target on my back, am I going to continue to make videos like this and tell the truth about what's going on? My attorney is begging me not to. My wife is begging me not to. These evil and corrupt people, and I'll add incompetent to that as well, they can't defeat you in the plane of ideas. So they'll go around your back and do underhanded, dirty things in order to try to silence you. In my case, they came for my job, and they continue to go for my job. In Charlie's case, it cost him his life. There's a lot of people out there right now saying, we are Charlie Kirk. There's a lot of people saying that they're going to stand up and they're going to speak up and they're going to do these things in honor of him. I have faced those consequences of doing the right thing, which there should not be a consequence for doing the right thing, but it's the world we live in now. I don't think these people coming out promising to do all these things, I don't think they're going to do it. I don't think very many people have the intestinal fortitude to go through the punishment and the pain that I've been forced to go through. Let alone what happened to Charlie. This is the world we live in. We're supposed to be able to use our words to make change in the world. We're the good guys. All I ever wanted to do with this YouTube channel was help the city of Columbus, help the Division of Police. The Division of Police currently is having a recruiting crisis. They're supposed to be putting 3 classes of 50 officers per year on the street. They're struggling to graduate classes of more than 20. When I went through the academy in 2011, we graduated 54 people. And there were still more people in line. The hiring list when I got hired would go for 2 years, and there were people on that list that didn't get hired that would be forced to reapply. Right now what's happening is they're burning through multiple lists just to fill one class. The city of Columbus is paying millions of dollars in advertising and marketing and video production to try to increase their recruiting, and it's not being effective. I guarantee you talk to the recruits sitting in the academy right now and ask them how many of them applied for the job because of this YouTube channel. I guarantee at least half of them would say that they're in those seats because of my YouTube channel. Regardless of the truth that you're telling and the amount of good that you're doing, there are still going to be evil people in this world that will not be satisfied that and will continue to come for you. Because good is the enemy of evil, and they will always view you as the enemy. I don't know how much longer I can do this.